Hey, Bobby Manning here. Noah Dalzell alongside. Celtics lose to the Cavs, and another surprise absence for Jrue Holiday, who's dealt with a variety of ailments this year, and this one the weirdest yet. Mallet finger. I believe I'll trust John on the pinky finger he saw on his right hand. It's definitely the right shooting hand for Holiday that is going to at least require a splint. Could potentially require surgery, as the medical people have talked about here, depending on the severity of it. Joe pointed toward him managing it day to day, and pain tolerance being what will decide if he's in or out. So we'll take that for what it is now, and doesn't seem like surgery is imminent. That would cost him several weeks here, but it does feel like this is something that they're going to have to be careful with, and maybe could cost him at least some short-term time here.
Yeah, they're going to definitely take their time with him just because in general they have. I mean, he literally had a rest day like 3 days ago. He rested the 4 games before the break. I think they are prioritizing his long-term availability over his ability to contribute in games like tonight. I don't like the finger stuff because I do think that it's just, it gets in your head psychologically. You know, he's a ball handler, he's deflecting passes, he's a shooter, and just having a finger that's not healed, like, it's not the end of the world. There are a lot of worse injuries to have, but it brings me back to like Jalen cutting his hand in the 2023 playoffs, and I feel like he just kept looking at it and it kept just bothering him, and obviously he ended up having a pretty tough close to that playoffs,
and then it burst.
A part of me was always thinking, like, I feel like this is a factor of why he's kind of having worse ball control than usual. So it just is one of those things that just kind of sucks to deal with. But in the scheme of things, you know, it's not your best player. It's not your, you know, of all the injuries to have, if our biggest concern here about the Celtics is Jrue Holiday dealing with a finger injury, like, I think everything will be okay. And it's February, so he has some time. It's not like he's playing in the most high stakes basketball now, but I would rest him and let that heal, because I wish we could have somebody on that knew more about the Mallet finger, but I think there's always the risk of re-injuring whenever you have a finger ligament issue. And so you don't want him to come back in and kind of go back to square one either.
Yeah, and his job's changed to where maybe you can splint it up and just have him do the defensive stuff and play a smaller role, as we've seen from him all year. He's only taking 5, 6, 7 shots a night on the average night, but the shooting's already diminished, whether physical or just regression over last year, to a point where you don't want to have that go in an even worse direction and then maybe impact the mental. We talked about it with Derek. Like, that started as an injury, became a mental thing, and lasted for about a month there. Jrue seems to shake off the shooting stuff fairly easily, and again, he's such a low volume part of this offense at this point that I could see him just splinting up, dealing with it, trying to figure out how to play through it, and being there for them. And like you said earlier this season, how long do you have to sit out to fully heal from that to be 100% ready to go? It's probably a long time. So he missed a game. I think that's a sign that he'll miss some time here. How much time is it? They can afford some, but probably not a ton here. So it's a tough balance, and certainly if it's surgery, then you're like, oh, like, that reshapes the whole 3 to 4 weeks of your season. And if return does risk it going in that direction with a re-injury, you probably just try to be safe as possible here, and Pritchard's more than capable, even though he had a rough game tonight, of stepping in with significant minutes there at that point. But we've had that conversation too. They're a little thin at guard, and I know they can play bigger and do some different kind of lineups to work through that, but it would be good to get a look at, all right, if you're missing Jrue for some amount of time here, do you have enough at that guard spot to get by in the playoffs?
Yeah, I agree. Is it crazy that I missed Jaden Springer today? I'm like, I would have loved to just see a couple minutes of Jaden Springer defensively.
I did ask the question, can you bring him back after a 10-day, and you can't.
But on the Jrue piece, I know you mentioned surgery a couple times. I just want to make clear that nobody has said anything about surgery as it pertains to Jrue. I think just looking up the injury, that is one of the things that can be done. But from Joe's comments today, and I know Joe doesn't say too much about injuries, it's a day-to-day pain management thing. So there's no real reason at this point to think that this is going to be a long-term concern, that surgery is on the table. Obviously, we could get an email tomorrow that there is something going on, but I think that just want to be clear, like, right now, it just seems like one of those things that might just be more of a nuisance than actually something that will keep him out extensively.
We'll see where it goes. Sunday, 1 o'clock, so we'll have an update on Jrue tomorrow, and his availability was questionable today, so in play to play. And then they scratched him pretty early in the day. So
I don't think he did anything at shoot around today. I think he was dressed. I saw him fully dressed. So
yeah, so there's no rush, I think, to get him back right now, and they'll see probably how it progresses on its own before they take a bigger step there. But it is something worth watching. I think it's a significant story here late in the season, and another just nagging injury for Jrue. It hasn't been anything significant this year, but he's dealt with a lot of stuff through the schedule that's hampered him after a long playoff run and Olympic run, and he's still so important to them. So every little thing's going to matter. Obviously, Cavs showing that if you're missing one or two pieces, that matchup could go the other way, and they did beat the Celtics here, 123 to 116 after trailing 25-3. We got into the game and how that went in our other video, so go check that out. And that's it for us here at TD Garden. We'll be back on Sunday for our big Nuggets game. I'm excited to see Jokic after we missed him in Denver. For Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. We'll talk to you then, and subscribe, CLNS Media, Celtics All Access.